As ready as I'm going to be. Hello and welcome back to the Horror of It All movie podcast. Adam will be back soon. He's been really busy. But this time I have a guest. This is my wife, Jen.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about our top favorite Friday the 13th movies, ranked in order of our favorites. And with each one, we will be talking about favorite lines, favorite kills, and we'll also be talking about other things like honorable mentions and different things we've experienced with the Friday the 13th franchise, like people we've met and things like that. So, I guess a little backstory could go in for me, and then I can lead into my wife. Jason's always been my favorite slasher, and even when I was a little kid. However, unlike a lot of people, I unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, as I mentioned on the podcast before, can't tell you what my first horror movie was, probably because I was beyond way too young, or depending on the person's opinion, too young. I was probably 2 or 3 years old, I don't know. But there's a good chance it was a Friday the 13th. I just don't know that for a fact. But Jason's always been my favorite. And then, throughout time, have it on various different formats, like VHS and things like that. And then as I got older, I started meeting people, which we'll get into. And then I met my wife, who wasn't... She knew about horror, but I had to kind of introduce her to it. It was a little rocky at first, I guess you would say. Like, she's completely different now. She's been desensitized.
Yes.
But I know it was funny. The first one that I watched with her was right from the beginning, and she had heard so many things. I didn't hype it up myself, but I was like, well, I'll start from the beginning with Friday the 13th. Let's try that. So I watched Friday the 13th, and it's not that she hated it, but she was like, I thought this was going to be more brutal or this or that. So I was surprised by that, so that was a good sign. However, as sequels went on and I watched other things that were actually more brutal, she had a little bit of time, but the more time she watched it, just like anybody, they're desensitized to the point of, like me, I can pretty much watch anything. And it doesn't mean that I don't have an emotional thing towards it, but like it's not that it's completely doesn't bother me or something. I'm not soulless, but I know it's a movie, and I understand that. Just as our children understand that, and we instilled that to them very early on, and they understand that, so it doesn't always bother them as much. So, I guess that's a little beginning backstory. I kind of jumped around a little bit, because I could get into more detail, but we got a lot to talk about. So, I guess I would say from there, either we can dive in, or no, I got a few more things like that I definitely want to mention growing up, like watching the Friday the 13th marathon on Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs. Joe Bob Briggs is kind of new to some people, depending on your age, or maybe you didn't catch him as a kid. I was fortunate enough to do that all the way back to the movie channel when I was really little. But he did a infamous Friday the 13th marathon that was definitely a lot of fun, and you can still watch the whole marathon, minus the movies, on YouTube if you ever want to check that out. So, I guess from there, we aren't necessarily doing it for the same reason as a lot of people that have been doing it with the box set, but that did spark it more because we've talked about it. But the box set I definitely want to mention, because the most current Scream Factory box set is the best representation of the franchise ever. I mean, there was a tin that was okay, but the packaging wasn't great, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I guess we can dive into our top favorites. As I said, we'll talk about little things with it, maybe people we met, things like that. But so I guess we could either do that, or if you want to talk about people we met and then go into our top whatever.
I'm game for whatever.
All right. Well, I can get all. I think we'll do that. I definitely have a few things. Oh, with the honorable mention thing, forgive me if I'm a little rusty. As you know, it's been like 5-6 months since I've done a podcast. So I definitely wanted to mention that the a few different things, like people we've met, as I keep mentioning. Like, one of the first people that we both met together, because I kind of started meeting people with her, other than maybe Kane and Derek. I think I met beforehand, but other than that, we met quite a few. Like Adrian King, that was a memorable experience. Amy Steele was a couple years ago from the second one. Tom Morga, who was Roy, or impersonator Jason, imposter Jason.
Imposter.
Which we'll also get into in 5, because my wife has an interesting theory about that. Obviously, nothing is fact or fiction. It's just her theory, and it's just a fun theory. I met Tom Matthews. That was awesome, because I love him from Return of the Living Dead, which actually I did a podcast on the movie Return of the Living Dead. You can go check that out on the same page. And then from there, it's pretty much getting into Kane, which I've probably met about 15 times, and she's not far behind. It's probably 12 or 13.
Yeah.
We pretty much know each other at this point. The same thing with Derek. That's probably maybe at least 10, but could be more than that.
At least 10 times we've met Derek, who is fantastic as a person and as an actor.
And it's always welcoming when he always remembers us, so that's always fun. Once things get back to somewhat of a normalcy, it'll be nice to go back to conventions, let alone concerts and things like that. So definitely look forward to that. One of my biggest bucket list, so to speak, person is still CJ Graham, who played Jason on Part 6, which I will also get into, because I also wrote in my top 5 favorite Jasons that I'm going to talk about on here. But he's definitely like a holy grail one. He's not necessarily hard. It's just I haven't caught him on any conventions, unfortunately. What else? We have posters all over the house of Friday the 13th. It's definitely a Friday the 13th house. Our son Corey's first stuffed toy was Jason. The first time that Corey met Kane, he gave. Well, I'll let my wife tell it, because I'm blabbing on.
He gave Kane the finger, I guess is the nice way to put it.
Yeah, he was always like that as a baby. I don't know why. It was always that finger.
He had an obsession with his middle finger, and when we met Kane with him, he flipped Kane off. We actually have a photograph of him flipping Kane off. And in return, Kane as Jason flipped our son off. And we have a photo of that too. Derek didn't seem to like that too well.
Derek didn't see the humor.
He was in the booth next to Kane and watched this and was not impressed. We, however, thought it was hilarious. Our infant son at the time thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, and he did. We have a picture where he just held on to his middle finger.
The finger. It was overall a fantastic experience, and it made all of us laugh.
Is there anything else to that story you want to add? I'll go to. There's a couple other things that.
Think so.
Well, what do you think, other than that one or mine personally? Do you have a favorite meeting that didn't necessarily? It doesn't have to do with both of us. It can. It doesn't matter. Like that comes to mind. Of all the times that you met either Kane or Derek or we're talking about Kane. We'll stick with Kane for a moment.
I think my favorite Kane introduction had to have been the very first time I had gone to a convention with you and you'd met him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was later in the afternoon. You had gone up, you asked Kane to do one of his classic Kane moves. Kane was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm too wiped out. It's been a long day. I just don't have the energy. And out of nowhere, my husband kind of drained his energy. He was very disappointed. And Kane grabbed him by the throat.
I guess.
And lifted him off the ground. And my husband is not a small person, so this had to have been a lot of power from Kane. And the sheer shock on my husband's face was priceless. And after that, he's had Kane do several different techniques. One of which we have video of Kane with his leather gloves on that he wears all the time.
Well, they're not leather. They're like a weird like mesh. It's rough. It's rough.
It's a rough material. Took his fist and jammed it into my husband's ear while squishing his head.
Well, I was seeing him do it to his buddies. They're like Mike, who did his biography Unmasked, which we also highly recommend. You can get the book, the audiobook. I have both, as well as the documentary that I wanted to mention while we're talking about Kane. We might as well definitely check that out. It's called The Hell and Back.
Fantastic.
One of the greatest documentaries ever. So that was in one of my favorite stories of myself. I did want to mention the story with my aunt when she met him. She thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yes.
The outcome, not that anything happened in the outcome, but when she told her husband, that was a pretty funny reaction. Yeah. But I'll back up. I'll get there. He kind of put her in like a sleeper hold, sort of, but not really. But had his arm around her, but it was like with her in front of her neck, and they took a picture because that's how he did his choke move. And then I don't remember exactly how else that happened, but he might have got caught on something, or she did.
No,
or something.
She walked away, and he said, "Hey, I'm not done with you yet," and grabbed her by the hood and pulled her back.
Yeah, and he said, "Oh, I bet you like it rough," and she just geeking out. It was just that was hilarious. But my uncle's reaction, because he's not really a horror movie guy, so he has no idea who this Kane person is. But he obviously could not. No offense to him, he could not take Kane, so it was pretty funny. He was like, "Where is he?" Like that typical tough guy thing. She thought it was hilarious, but nothing ever happened of it, obviously. It would be funny if he did confront Kane, because I don't think it would...
It would not end on his favor.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
My favorite picture, I post a lot on Facebook, that I usually get a lot of questions about, and if I don't, I volunteer the answers. He has a machete to my neck, and you would think it's just for a picture or a prop. No, it was a real machete, and it had a saw side to it. Isn't that the side that was up against my neck, or was it the other way?
It was flipped on the flat side.
Okay, but he had it pressed so hard that I did have a giant red line on my neck, and I thought that was awesome if I got killed by Jason. I was even a dork like that. Like, I almost got killed by Jason one of the many times. But from there, I guess I'll lead into anything else that you can think of a convention experience between Derek or anybody else that we met that we could talk about.
I think my favorite Kane experience was one of the many conventions that we go to, and we didn't even expect him to be there as a guest and have a booth, and he pointed us out of the crowd halfway across the room and called us over and was like, "Hey, come back, chat with me, like, hang out." Just to have that experience with people who you wouldn't expect. Like, we're just normal people, and these guys are huge, like, actors and actresses that have names.
Right, true, because we have met people where it's basically your experiences.
You're like, "Hey, how's it going? Sign something," and then you're gone. Whereas,
I won't name any names, Kane, that we've had that experience.
Kane remembers our name. He remembers who we are. I mean, over the thousands of fans that they have seen, for them to remember certain names and specific names, I think is one of the most fantastic things.
Yeah.
And to go, like, this wasn't even the usual convention we go to. This was one we just went to for the sake of going.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one you mean.
I want to say it was Rhode Island.
Okay,
when we went to Rhode Island, and we didn't know, like, he wasn't on the roster, he wasn't in the images, we walked by, and here he is at a booth with Mike, and he's just like waving us down, like, "Hey, come over." Like, Mike was there, but we didn't expect him to be there. So then, to have him call us over was kind of cool, just because, like, we didn't expect to see him, he didn't expect to see us. But knowing somebody like that, like, I love when people get that, "Oh, well, you don't actually know this person," or you're only a fan, and you only go because of that.
Right, because it's natural, because a lot of people say they know the person or whatever just because you met somebody once. But over time, and you kind of make some sort of acquaintance-type friendship that you know each other on a first name basis and things like that, then yeah, that's a little different.
I just think it's really cool.
Yeah. Also, I'm trying to decide if I want to. Oh yeah, I did mention the honorable mention thing. We'll mention that beforehand. Usually I do it like maybe before the last thing, but I'll talk a bit about Freddy versus Jason because it's really, I guess, some people's opinion of if you think it's part of this franchise or part of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I personally think it's like its own thing. I mean, it has the elements of everything, but it kind of brings both those worlds together, and it kind of makes its own thing. So I don't consider it like part 11 or anything, but at the same time, I'm also the weirdo that, yes, it's a remake reboot, but I kind of look at Derek's as part 11, as weird as that might sound. I'm sure people disagree, but that's your own prerogative. And then, what was a couple things I'm trying to think of from Freddy versus Jason? I know it was fun that I did see that in the theater. It's definitely a fun movie. I mean, I do disagree with certain things in it, but of course you do. I mean, I think the biggest thing about it that I disagreed with, other than everything being fun, is just that whole water thing is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why introduce it this far into it? That's another reason why I feel that it's its own thing. Jason's obviously not afraid of water. I mean, it would make sense if he was,
I mean,
but he's not.
And I totally agree. I actually put that in my honorable mention because he's got so many water kills in the rest of the movies.
He even goes in the water at the end of the movie.
Right. And he walks through the water. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And as much as it's a good movie for a good laugh and a good, there are good kills in that movie, and it's different and unique, and it's the dream world, but it's reality. At the same time, the storyline is so broken at times that it doesn't always fit and make sense. It's almost like when the writers were writing it, they were doing it just to make another movie, and they didn't take the time to think out what could be better, what could be different, how it could fit better.
I don't know this.
It's just, I don't know. It just, for me, it was broken,
Sure.
And it just didn't work the way I thought and hoped it would have worked.
And I don't know if that necessarily was the case with the writers, but it's possible. Maybe they wanted their own take on it or whatever, because throughout the franchise, there is inconsistencies, of course, because it's not all the same writers, it's not all the same directors, it's not all the same Jasons, it's not all the same anything. But that was definitely the one that I felt was the furthest from what it should have been. Just on that aspect. Everything else is fine, which I definitely want to mention. Two different things. My favorite kills was, well, one's not really a kill. There's a debate on who won. I say it's Jason, not just because I'm a Jason guy, but Freddy's still ahead. Okay, let's be honest. But my favorite kill is probably the bed kill when he folds the bed and he breaks his back backwards. Yes. That's a good one.
That's definitely my favorite as well.
What are a couple other things? Well, before we dive into it, I have a Jason tattoo, which Kane and Derek have seen.
Yep.
And yeah.
And mine's being planned and thought out because I'm, of course, a huge Jason fan. As Eric said in the beginning, that when we first watched the Jason franchise, he started with movie number 1. And, of course, in school, when this first came out, I wasn't really into horror. All my friends had hyped it up and said, oh, it's bloody, it's really gory, it's really good, you should watch it. And then we got to watching it, and I was like, this isn't what I expected. And it wasn't anything I really wanted to watch again. I mean, I have watched it several times and have grown to like it. But for me, it's just a different thing. I have become desensitized to most things horror-related now, thanks to him and introducing me to things and the people behind the masks. And I know we had honorable mentioned the Freddy vs. Jason, but I have to say, like, through all of my horror realm and him introducing me to things, that one of my favorite movies is more of a horror sci-fi. And without being known to me, one of my movies growing up was Tremors, and I had no idea that was a horror movie until my husband informed me that it's a creature feature. So, yeah, on that note, I will leave it to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we can dive into usually I do other things like a bunch of facts and this and that, but there's a lot of movies. So if you want facts and you want to check out something that you may not have checked out before, there's definitely a really cool bonus disc in the box set. But there's a very extensive documentary called Crystal Lake Memories. Each movie probably gets at least 45 minutes or more.
I would say, at least.
And I'm not saying it's broken up, but they do go movie by movie, and they talk to a bunch of people that were involved in it, be it actors, be it writers, be it the directors. So it's definitely fun. I mean, it's super long, but you wouldn't even know it because of how great it is.
It's very well put together, that's for sure.
I highly recommend that. If you want to dip your toes into that, the same guy who did Crystal Lake Memories, Daniel Ference, I don't know if that rings a bell with any horror fans, but I don't know if it's his first thing, but he wrote Halloween 6? Yeah, Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. But he's done a lot of documentaries, and that's one of them. He did a shorter version, like I said, if you want to get your feet wet, and then kind of go from there if you're maybe more of a casual fan. And what was that called? Now I can't remember because this is always the one that I might go to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna blank. I hate when I blank on while I'm recording because then I'm like, oh yeah, it's this. But anyway, his name was Jason. His name was Jason. That's what it is. So I guess now that we've rambled on or should I say I've rambled on because that's just what we do. If you're a listener of the podcast, that's what we do, and go off on tangents. But we can dive into our ranking of our favorites, and I have a feeling that the last one is how would I put it? It's not our favorite from our least favorite. Is a different reason for her because she genuinely doesn't like it. She'll tell you about that. I grew up with it and liked it way more when I was a kid. I like it a little less as time goes on, but there really is some good stuff in it. But we'll get into that. So you're the guest, so I'll let you do your spiel on it, and we're talking about Jason Goes to Hell.
Jason Goes to Hell is my least favorite of the Jason franchise. Don't get me wrong, for those of you that love it, I commend you for...
Oh yeah, to each their own.
Actually,
never be that person.
Taking it and liking it, I do not. I think the reason that it's my least favorite is because I'm so in tune to things such as the paranormal and spirits and doing that kind of thing, and the way they portray the essence of Jason in Jason Goes to Hell and possessing other people's bodies.
Demon worm thing.
And being a demon worm.
And I'm not picking on it. I actually like it. But anyway. Sorry.
I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me. I don't know if it's because I nitpicked it apart or if it's because I just couldn't understand like the way the writers were writing it. I just cannot get into this movie. Like, I hate to say it because this is my second favorite and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I will not watch that. I've watched it twice. Won't watch it again at all. I don't want anything to do with it. I would watch Jason X before I watch Jason Goes to Hell, and I don't care for Jason X either, but I'll let Eric tell his spiel.
I'll get her to watch it again.
Nope.
The unrated version is really good.
Nope.
But yeah, mine with 9, as I said, when I was a kid, I had the VHS. I watched it a lot. If you could take yourself out of the fact that it's supposed to be a Jason movie, because it is. It starts with and ends with. But there is different weird things. But I guess as the extreme horror fan I am, I try to disconnect from it. Like it's hard to, you don't forget, but there is a lot of great kills. There's a lot of great lines, like the security guard, for instance, towards the beginning, and it's Kane, and he calls Jason a fucking pussy. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Well, it is, but it isn't, because you can't call Jason a pussy if you portrayed Jason.
That's why it's funny.
That's why, yes, and I understand that's why it's funny. However, like, some of the kills aren't that great.
Oh, come on.
They're kind of shitty, actually.
No.
Excuse my language, but there's been better kills than the rest of the Jason movies. This does not compare to any of them. This is, like, the most mediocre for me. Like,
I know, I understand. But again, I'm defending it as a fan, but at the same time, yeah, it's my least favorite as well. I like all of them and I love a lot of them, but everything's got to fall into a certain place. It's not even a kill. One of the most disgusting, but I say disgusting in the most way, is when Jason is blown to bits. By the way, spoiler alert, I'm a podcast that has full spoils. I know it's a little late to mention that, but I didn't. Again, I'm rusty. Forgive me. When the coroner is taking apart Jason's pieces and he's recording it and stuff, and then something almost possesses him to eat his heart. And when he does that, that's what starts this whole thing of the worm fucking demon thing that is Jason, and it goes through person to person and possesses this person until that body's dead and worthless, and then he goes on to another one. One of my favorite lines is, there's so many great lines, but one of my favorite lines, just because the woman is just so, like, intense and abrupt about it, she is the one at the diner because somebody wants the baby, and there's connections with that with Jason too. Like, it's one of his, like, last living something. I don't even remember that. It's there, but I can't remember.
Wasn't it his daughter or sister or something like that?
It was a distant relative or something, but I don't know. They kind of got into a bit of Halloween territory. Anyway, that wasn't my point of it, but when the person comes in, I even forget who it was. And I've seen it so many times, but anyway, my point is I'm getting to that line where she just says it just so funny. She's like, nobody's gonna touch that fucking ray of sunshine. She's just so funny in it, and her kill is really, now I think of that, her kill is really good too, because she gets hit in the fucking face, and her face caves in. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, the inevitable Freddy's hand coming up at the end and taking the mask, which Freddy vs. Jason was supposed to happen way earlier, but for various reasons it didn't happen. Not to the extreme of now, where I will take as many movies as they can give me. I'm always a more is more guy, be it with movies, be it with anything.
Definitely.
I'll take 100 Jason movies. And yeah, they're not all going to be great, but at least you got to at least give Jason Goes to Hell, even though it failed for you. They did try to do something different.
They tried. And
they just went too far with the different. And I'm not saying anything bad about it, because Adam Marcus, the director, is a great director. And it was his idea, but yeah.
And like I said,
no, it wasn't his idea, but he started the story with a friend.
Well, and I think the reason for me that it is my least favorite is because it is so far out there, and it is so different, and it doesn't really line up with the rest of the the franchise.
That's true, because even though there's inconsistencies throughout the movies, they do connect in a way.
Line up in a certain
like a puzzle piece.
Because even Derek's new Jason,
right, which we'll get to that,
still kind of connects with the older movies.
Sure.
If you were to sit down and watch them from beginning to end. And it's almost like this should have been 11. Like you said, like you're not wanting to count it as that, but it should have been.
Yeah.
In a way, because if you think about it,
you're talking about Derek. We'll get into Derek, but I mean, Friday the 13th. Anyway,
because if you think about it, Jason X came after
Oh,
Jason
right. I
Goes to
see. We talked
Hell.
about that. Yeah, yeah.
Whereas I could see Jason Goes to Hell.
Because technically, Jason X
being-
is the end of everything because it's so far in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
But I could see Jason Goes to Hell being after Jason X only because then, yes, there would be an essence of Jason because he came from space.
Yeah, yeah.
He burned up in the atmosphere on arrival. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
And then it'd be the...
But he can't die, so that probably didn't even kill him.
But then it would be the essence of Jason
Oh,
that
I
then
never thought about
possesses
it.
everything.
Wow, that's cool.
And then it would have lined up better for me.
Sure.
But that's
I get
not
that.
how it was written, so
Right.
that's why it's not my...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And I guess because I'm so spiritual and connected with, like, that kind of thing, the essence is what throws me off because I'm more of a realistic when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah.
Versus what they've portrayed. So it kind of irked me a little bit.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I guess the last thing I'll add is the or is there anything else? I don't think there's much else. I had the Blu-ray in front of me. A lot of times on the episode I read the synopsis, but I think everybody kind of has an idea of what Jason Goes to Hell is because we talked about it. So, I don't even have to say mine. We kind of did ours together. So, I guess I'll say my next one, which is probably not the same because we didn't share lists beforehand. And for a lot of people, they're going to be like, oh my God, how is it so far down? Because everybody has that cliche thing of like, which will give away what my next is. The first one is the best of everything because it came first. I 100% disagree. I'm usually a sequel guy. There's some great things in one. I do not dislike it. However, up against all the other movies, it's down there with Jason Goes to Hell for me. So Friday the 13th Part 1. And Jason's not even in it, and that's not why I'm saying it. I'm not that guy either. I don't want to get back into another side note with Halloween, but how everybody is with Halloween 3. I'm going to put that out there too. I may have mentioned it before. That is a great fucking movie on the merits of it being its own thing. I call it Season of the Witch because it's not a Halloween movie, but people can't wrap their head around because Michael Myers isn't in it and blah, blah, blah. That's not why I'm saying about this one because it was the first. There's got to be a first somewhere. It's still a good movie. It's monumental and it's cool that it was different. I like the references in other movies like Scream when Drew Barrymore was asked who's the killer, and she's like Jason. He's like, you're wrong. I watched that movie 20 goddamn times. Well, if you watched it, you would have known that it was Jason's mother. Jason didn't come until the sequel. Couple quick things I'll add to it other than that, and Jen can go to her next one, is my favorite kills are probably kind of sort of cliche kills that people say, but Mother's Kill is great. I mean, that's one of the great decapitations, and it's early work of Tom Savini. But my favorite one is probably Kevin Bacon's kill, where he's smoking a joint, and then he's like, he's just laying there I think it's on a bed.
It's on the bed, yeah.
Okay. And then gets a spike through the backside of his neck all the way through, and there's a spurt of blood. Again, for the casual person, might not know how that worked and have seen the movie. I always find the story funny. That was actually, I could be quoting that it was Tom Savini or not, but I think it was Tom Savini. He did the effect, but I don't know if he did this part. The blood was like coagulating, so they couldn't get it through because it was so thick. So where that spurt out, he had to blow in the tube. I always thought that was funny.
And it spurted out.
So anyway, your next one.
All right. So ours are different, as you figured. We did not.
I have a feeling your next one is my next one.
in our lists, and we didn't discuss anything of our lists before this. Part 10 is my second to least favorite. For a few reasons. I'm all for cryogenics. I think that's amazing if we can ever get to that and get people into space. That's totally like something that I think would be cool. But for me, it's hard to think of why it would make him so uber just to be in a cryogenic sphere.
Remember, that was towards the end. But yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but it's hard for me to.
Because it was ridiculously in the future. What was it? Oh, I got it right here.
It's hard for me to get into that.
It was
future
24:55.
Wow. It's hard for me to get into that aspect. I think again because I'm such a space nerd and know how space works, and there would have to be a lot of advanced technology. But some of the things that he does in space aren't realistic enough for me to believe the storyline. The one kill that everybody loves in the movie, I thought was just I've seen better kills. Was when he freeze dries her face and then slashes it,
kills, but
smashes it into
the
table. I mean, it's a good kill, yeah, but there's no gore. There's really no blood.
It's because it froze.
It just for me didn't.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the thing.
Yeah, it didn't satisfy my gore factor that I was looking for. I think one of my favorite kills in that is when the girl is holding onto something and she's sucked through a grate and pretty much obliterated through this these tiny holes in the grate.
It's a good kill, genius. But it's still funny because it's like, how'd she go through that little?
It was literally like watching. It was like watching clay through like a sieve or something. It was just like everywhere.
So it was kind of a mix of both. Like, it was cool, but at the same time, I was like, what? But again,
that's how I am.
I'm not ripping it apart either because I'm also, that I'm the guy, and I think it helped that because of the abundance of movies that I've watched that. It's always been easier for me to disconnect from reality. So thankfully, like, your thing is a common thing. A lot of people feel that. I'm able to be like, it's a movie. It's not supposed to be reality, so they can do whatever they want. But that's just me.
Well, and I think part of that is the ADHD in me that
could be
that can't
almost like you overthink it,
right? Or I'll nitpick it apart to make it make sense without really realizing or meaning to.
I'm more of I just have fun guy.
Like I said before, I will watch Jason X 1,000 times over before I watch Jason Goes to Hell. For the simple fact that it is a great movie, it's just not in my top 5 favorites at this point.
No, yeah.
It's definitely lower in my list.
Ours coincide a bit at the beginning. I feel like they might change throughout it, but we could end up having similar things, and at the same time, we'll both kind of bounce off each other how we feel about that or that. My favorite kill in it is a favorite kill in another movie. However, I like it better in this one because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because they brought back the sleeping bag kill because it was actually not even a real kill because these were simulated girls and they were just trying to distract Jason. And then instead of beating her in the tree, he starts beating each other
sleeping
with
bag.
the sleeping bag.
Oh my god, yes. So I completely forgot about that one. I think what made that specific part for me fun was knowing from Kane that was his favorite kill. So to bring it back in Jason X,
and I'm sure it was his idea.
And expand on it and really get into that part. Like, you could see Kane getting into that part when he's Jason and, like, going to town, slamming them together.
I've definitely thought about that, but I will say even more so with Jason X, I've never thought about it, and this might even make me like it a little bit more, not changing it in my order, but I never thought about it, but a lot of Jason X is totally Kane's
it's
personality.
His influence definitely shows.
It's extreme horror, but at the same time, it's goofy sometimes. Yeah, that's Kane.
Yeah.
But I love this synopsis, and then we can move on to another one unless you have something else to say about Jason X. I had to read this one because I thought it was a good one, but yet to the point. In the year 2455, routine training mission. A team of students are about to learn a terrifying lesson. Through the years, Jason Voorhees has claimed over 200 victims. Now, the legendary killer from Crystal Lake has found himself aboard a spaceship, and the little thing like zero gravity will not stop horror's most vicious killer. I guess that kind of, in a nutshell, describes describes that one. All right, so you can say your next one because we did 10 together because that was my next one. So
right.
Go ahead.
So going backwards from my list, how do I put it? as much as I love Derek as an actor, number 11 has to be my next to talk about.
Oh yeah, and if you forgot, that's what we call it. Some people will be like, "Oh, it's not possible. It's not." That's 11 to us. Just go with it.
To us, it's 11. For various reasons. He's a kick-ass Jason. I'll give him that. Like, he's got the body for it. He's muscular, like Jason would be. I mean, by now most people are like, "Oh, Jason should be a rotting corpse, like a zombie."
Which it pretty much got to that point then. So they did revamp it a little bit, so I could see why some people might not be confused with it being 11.
I can, but I can't, because
they're not all consistent anyway. Because if you think about it, look how rotting he was in 7, and then in 8, he's like slime.
Right. So,
it depends on who did the effects.
I think it's really cool. Next to Kane Hodder, he is my favorite person to play Jason, not only because we've met him personally and have a personal relationship with him, but because of his personality. Like, he has that same goofy, fun personality as Kane when he talks about his roles. Whether it be The Hills Have Eyes, whether it be Jason, whether it be something else.
However, I will say this. It doesn't thankfully take anything away, because I was afraid of that when the more times we met him. Like, is that going to take away from his intensity of Jason and this and that because we know him? But once he's that great of an actor that once he focuses in on it, granted he doesn't have lines, but
oh my god, yes.
Teach their own with certain things. Some people don't like certain things with him, like when he runs and things like that. But I think that's kind of intimidating. Yes, Jason's never quote unquote ran, but he's come pretty close. He has a stride, I think, in 3 or 4, it's a little quick, but that's one thing people have kind of gave that one shit about. But I always liked it too. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because, again, ours coincided. So, and again, I swear to God,
we did not.
I will say this for me, it has been higher in the past, but the more I just watch and the more I just love the old ones that I grew up with, it kind of it keeps getting bumped down a little bit.
For me, I think it's the storyline. Like, as much as it coincides...
Some of the storyline doesn't make sense, yeah. Like in that,
as much as it coincides with the rest of it, like... The fact that he, spoiler alert, kidnaps somebody and keeps her alive. Like, why? Like, he's never in the past kept somebody as a hostage.
Not to interrupt, hold on. Even though I just got done saying, little inconsistencies don't bother me, but that's not really a little inconsistency. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Inconsistency for me.
But I don't have that big of a problem with it, but it also doesn't make sense.
Yes, it makes the storyline for that movie, and I understand why, but it's, again, like you said with Freddy vs. Jason, like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Yeah.
You know, Jason isn't afraid of water. He's made many water kills. He's walked in the water to kill other people. He clearly can swim at some point. But with this one, like, why kidnap somebody? Why keep her alive? Like, he could have killed her the several times that she did, like, try to escape, and he just kept putting her back.
I feel like there was a reason, but I don't remember it off the top right now. Like,
yeah, it was, again, I think it was something family-oriented that he remembered, but in the same aspect, like, I think it just didn't tie in for me. As much as it goes with the storyline from the rest of them in some aspects, it didn't for this one, and that's why it put me so low.
Right.
Was that little tweak of an aspect. The kills are fantastic in that movie. Derek is a fantastic actor as Jason.
He technically, in a way, gets to play like 2 Jasons because he gets to play Baghead and he gets the mask in one movie, so
correct.
That's cool.
So he gets
they
both.
tie in.
Yeah.
They basically tie in 1 through 4, kind of.
Yeah.
Because the prologue is basically the first movie's the prologue.
Yeah.
Like talking and mommy and all that.
Mommy, yeah. But
which, by the way, I am a snob. It's all right. I just had to have that because I'm a jackass who have gotten arguments with people just because not that they think they're right, but they just think I'm a dick because I got to point that out. But sorry, right is right.
Right is right, and it's been said by the actual person.
I think one of my favorite things that I've got as an answer was, "Yeah, you may be right, but yeah, but I lost my train of thought what I was talking about." But anyway, it was just the side note of the stupid shit with the kill mom thing. I believe. If I forgot something, sorry. But I will say, I don't know if you wrote down any specific kills, but one
I
of my
didn't.
favorite kills that I always thought was really cool, and it was kind of reminiscent of 3, but to a degree, but it was an arrow, like when the dude's on the boat,
yes.
and like from the shore he shoots him and he gets him like right here. That's really good.
Yeah. It's like almost in the eye. Like that was really cool.
And the axe thrown through the back,
Yes.
which actually we were just talking about him running because he was running after him. But then it still continues because the guy falls on the axe essentially, and he pushes it more like through him.
Steps on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a great kill for sure.
Oh, not to backtrack, but there was one kill in Jason. Jason Goes to Hell that I didn't mention that I really liked is the tent kill where he rips through the tent and he like actually that's not it. Well, it's him, but he cuts the girl in half while they're having sex. That's a cool kill.
Yeah.
But segue into sex. Some of the lines that come out of the fucking asshole. I know some people like this guy, but fuck that guy. He's one of my least favorite people in the series. That asshole guy that was being such a dick to that guy that you just meet. That's looking for his sister, which actually I don't know if you know this or put it together. That story's also brought in from which one? From the 4th one?
Yes.
Because I think it's in the 2nd one. Because the first few happened in a matter of days.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. A lot of not all of them are on Friday the 13th. Anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, when he's looking for his sister in one of the other ones, and then it actually like.
But he doesn't, unfortunately, find her. I think he
doesn't find her until the very end.
On this, I'm talking about
11.
On that one, he did.
On that one, he doesn't, and then 11
because he gets killed. He's the one. He's killing me. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah. But I was getting to the sex scene. The asshole guy. The one redeeming thing that he had is some of his lines. As a guy, I just thought were funny. Like the two lines that always get me is like, who talks like this? But your tits are stupendous. Or the other tit line was, you got perfect nipple placement. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy?
I'm sorry, but clearly she's had surgery of some sort because no woman has perfect nipple placement. I'm sorry.
Coming from a woman's point of view, all right. And then one last thing I wanted to add was another favorite kill was one of the pre-credit kills with... and I did want to mention I did see this movie in the theater too. A little side note. But is the sleeping bag... The girl in the sleeping bag tied to a tree is like... That's horrifying. And then he lights it, and then it gets...
And then he lights it
on... he doesn't light it on fire. I think the campfire does.
Yes, it catches her on fire.
And she burns to death. But yeah, anyway.
Insane.
I don't know if you had anything else for, as we call it, 11. But,
I do not.
All right. I will go to...
Your next choice,
My next choice.
Your next victim.
Now, we may or may not start differing. Who knows? We'll find out.
This one will definitely be differing because you've already talked about it, and I haven't yet.
I see. Okay, so we're getting a little different. My next choice is, as we're working up from least favorite to favorite. Right. Well, I don't. How many is it? Is it 10 or is it? No, it would be 11.
It's 11, but
right. So I'm not exactly sure what number we're on, but
for me, it's 8. My 8.
Oh, you're number 8. Okay,
I'm going backwards from 11.
So that makes sense. So mine will be part 2. I know some might think it's a little low, but I don't have anything against this movie. Again, it's got to go in an order, but. I do love part 2. It's the first time introduction of Jason. Amy Steele is amazing, and we've met her as Ginny, and there's just my wife's getting a little antsy. I don't know if that means it's her next one or not, but or you wanted to say something or add something.
It's not my next one. It's definitely different on our list, that's for sure, and that's all I'm going to say about it right now. Against it.
I love it, but again, things have to place in certain places because I've always had like a top 5 that kind of move around.
Yeah.
So they
I
got to
agree
go
with
where they got
that
to go.
in the top 5. That's all I'm going to say on it because
We'll
it's
get there.
higher
Right.
up on my list versus your list, so
Yeah.
they'll be a little different.
But a few things, like I said, there's always been theories of people like were confused with part 2, like how is Jason all of a sudden blah blah blah. Again, I don't overthink it. Jason, this is my take on it. Jason didn't die, okay? He didn't die, and then he was in the woods, and he grew up in the woods, and now he's a killer because he saw, like, his mother get beheaded, so now it's more like a revenge thing.
Absolutely.
That's how I always looked at it.
Absolutely.
The Baghead isn't bad. It was a good first try. I'm so glad they went into the, just for, not just the look. The look was cool, but for the stuntmen's thing, because they were getting like rashes and it was hurting his eyes and shit.
So my theory with the Baghead, and it doesn't go with anything that I'm saying about mine. I'm glad you brought that up because, like you said, it's him. It's in the woods. It's the first time we see Jason. So you think if Jason didn't die and he's living off what he's found,
no, sure,
he's possibly found. He's possibly found this potato sack because somebody discarded it out of a car.
I'm sure he killed
didn't
animals
like the way
and ate them.
He didn't like the way he looked. Possibly saw his reflection in something, and found this bag and was like, you know what? I'm gonna hide myself, and that's how Baghead Jason came about. We don't know because there really isn't a backstory. This is the first instinct we're seeing of him.
Right.
And like you said, he's lived off the land. He's lived and built himself, and he's out for revenge.
And this is just a theory. However, I think it's the one that makes the most sense.
Me too.
I don't know how he would all of a sudden, like when they're confused, like, but he died. And think about it like this. He didn't die. It's that simple.
Right.
You know? Now, I will go back to one quick thing that I said about it, about, like, with our hypothetical, how he survived, like, maybe he killed an animal or blah, blah, blah. It has never been shown or proven or anything, but I'm pretty sure Jason... And Cain is... even though he's not Jason, but he is. Like, it has the authority for it. But Jason doesn't kill animals, like pets. Like dogs.
Yeah.
Which I'll go into because there's a little tiny dog that you think... Because this is the first incantation, Jason, and if you're going in order for your first time, you thought that dog was probably dead until the last minute, even though I don't know why it geeks me out, because her delivery is fine. She's not acting it bad, Amy Steele, but something about when she's, Muffin. I don't know why that geeks me out, and I'm not picking on it. I'm just like, oh, Muffin. And then Jason jumps through the window. Anyway, so, yeah. I did want to say my favorite kill is probably your favorite kill, so you can go into it on yours. It's the yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But one little thing that I will add that is more of a deeper thing with the movie. All right, let me see if I can go off on this quick tangent. Most of the time, and I've talked about this at length, people automatically go with Italians ripping off American movies. Now, initially, this has nothing to do with Friday the 13th, this little part, but I never find it that they rip off the movies. I find it that, yes, say it works in another country like America, they're going to try it, but they don't copy really anything. They just take that initial and they blow it up and they make it their own. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it's anything, but in Italy, names sell. The reason why I mentioned that is because there is a movie from the early 70s called Bay of Blood, a.k.a. Twitch of the Death Nerve, a.k.a. blah, 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 blah. It's an Italian movie. It has those many titles. But Mario Bava's movie was definitely... Friday the 13th Part 2 was definitely influenced by that movie because a lot of the very, very similar, if dare I say, same kills... The bed kill with the skewer, that's in that movie. Just to name one. I think there's an axe to the face on that one. But they're very, very similar. When I say they're copies, kind of close, and I'm not taking anything away from Friday the 13th Part 2, but I just wanted to mention that because it goes both ways. Everybody's influenced by everybody, and it just ends up into a cornball, and we just have fun with it. That's
exactly.
That's a good way to describe horror in general.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that was my 8, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not. But that was my last one. Was not my number 2. So you can say your next one.
So my number 8 on my list, going back from 11 to 1, would be Part 1. It's not my least favorite by any means, but it's not my top 5 either. It was the first movie I watched, like we said before. It was really hyped up by all my friends. They all were like, oh my god, it's so bloody, it's so gory, it's this, it's that. And then we watched it, and I was like, where's the gore? Like, I was nitpicking this movie apart based on what my friends had said. And after a while, like, I've grown now to love it more, especially meeting...
it's a good movie.
Especially meeting certain members. And, like, don't get me wrong, Betsy Palmer did a fantastic job.
Oh, absolutely. And the little quick thing, I don't want you to lose your train of thought, but Betsy Palmer, the only reason why she took that role is because she needed a new car.
Right.
Because her car broke down and she was in that area. And
they needed somebody to play.
And she was a classic actress and everything, and they're like, oh, wow.
But she portrayed such a great mother role as far as a mother sticking up for her child and getting revenge and irking and being that big mama alpha dog that most of us mothers are. Like, I know I would be with my children.
And that's kind of where the mama thing came from. Kill ma.
She did such a good job in this role that I don't think anybody else could ever be cast. Even if they ever did a remake for this, no one could top Betsy Palmer.
They kind of did, but it was really just at the beginning of
No one could top Betsy Palmer. Remake. Like, no one.
I got to add this to Betsy Palmer, though, is because she was such a classically trained actress and that she did, like, stage plays and stuff like that, that when she's smacking around...
Oh my God!
Adrienne King. She's actually smacking her around.
She's
like,
actually
"Oh, honey, that's how we do it. What do you mean?"
Yeah,
she's like, "You're hurting me."
Yeah, she was physically hurting.
Not trying to. She was just acting, and Adrienne King was like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
I think that was one of my favorite memories of the conventions that we went to. One of the very first ones we went to, I got to meet Adrienne King, and here's this lady who is not only stunning, like, beauty-wise, but she's a fantastic actress, and I'd never seen someone play such an in-depth role as she did.
Mm-hmm.
And to meet her after watching this movie and getting to know her and some of the other people was just, like, mind-blowing for me.
I did need to add something that I didn't from when I said part 2. That she mentioned when we met her, and she's mentioned in interviews and documentaries and stuff. But I get it on her end. But the beginning of part 2, she still has it in her head and very confused. Maybe because she wanted to play it longer, or she wanted to play her again. But as we're saying her and this and her real name, what the hell is her name on the movie? Alice.
Alice.
Yeah. Where she always says, like, how did Jason know where she lived? That's another thing in my head that I don't overthink it.
Right.
Like, he's Jason, exactly. He figured it out. I don't know. Like, I let's just go with the movie. Like, that's just who I am. Like, and that's probably annoying to a lot of people more than me, because more people have that, like, everything has to connect. And, well, it's a movie, it's not gonna.
In a weird way for me, though, I kind of connect it like this, because it almost seems like a dreamlike state for her.
Yeah.
She
is dreaming at one point.
So it's almost like she's continuing with the dream state, and it's not until after.
I didn't add her kill either, though.
So it's not until after he drives the ice pick.
It's
an ice pick. Yeah. Through her temple.
I got down
that the movie really starts in, and you really get a feel for part 2.
Right. It's almost like they needed that, even though to some it might not make sense how we got there.
But so yeah,
because it's not 8, and we'll both get to our 8 because with what did Corey call? I know what it is, but it's not shape shifting, but he can go from here to there. Oh my God! I'm gonna blank it. It's just a silly word, but I do that all the time. Anyway, teleporting. Yeah,
teleporting.
There's a theory about that. Anyway, we'll get there. Continue if you have anything else for that.
Yeah, so, like I said...
What are we on, 2? You're 2? You said 2?
1.
1. Oh, 1.
It's a great movie. I loved it being the first one. It wasn't as hyped as people made it to be. I think for me, the reason it's so low on my list is because there isn't a lot of gore factor like everybody hyped it up to be. There isn't a lot of blood factor. It is a more black and white film, which made it kind of for me.
And you don't mean really... like black and white, like color. You meant like it's like black or white. Like yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right. It's a cut and dry. Like the storyline's great. Betsy Palmer did a fantastic job. However, it's one of those where I wish they had shown more gore.
Yeah.
The most gore in that whole movie,
unfortunately, a lot of that isn't
when
really their fault.
They cut her head off.
Right, but a lot of that, unfortunately, isn't their fault. Imagine if... It's a catch-22, though, because I always imagine what if the Friday the 13th franchise was made more independently and they were able to keep in that blood, but then at the same time, would they have had the money to make so many movies? So it's almost like...
it's that catch-22. It's not in my top 5, but it's still a fantastic movie nonetheless, even though it's on my number 8.
Right. Now, you're all set?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this one flip-flops for me to be in my top 5 and then not in my top 5, and it flip-flops with my next one that is number 5, but my number 6...
No, number 7.
What?
We're on 7.
Are you on 7?
We're on 7. I just did 8.
Hold on. That's fine. So we are a little off, but I think it's because some of ours coincided. So... I'm actually on my number 6, so if you're on your number 7, you can do your number 7, and then we'll be on track.
But my number 7 might be your number 6. Who knows? Number 7 on my list is Part 3.
Nope. It wasn't there.
It took me a while to appreciate the older movies, 1 through 4, for many reasons. But I think a lot of it was the gore factor. There wasn't a lot of gore. There wasn't a lot of stuff being shown. You didn't always see the kills, but you saw blood spatter. Now, after watching it more times than not,
appreciate it as a movie.
I appreciate exactly.
You're not looking for
that gore factor. I appreciate it as a movie and as like I said, getting to know the actors behind the scenes of the movies and meeting people and getting to see okay, it is just a movie. However, these people do take on the time to portray their actual roles has kind of made it better for me.
Yeah, I have a lot to add for that, but I will when I get to 3. Not to what you're saying, but my takes.
There are some great kills. I am blanking on one in specific, but it's just...
Speaking of kills, not to interrupt, but we both did our 2s, right? Part 2?
Nope, I haven't done my part 2 yet.
Okay, that's right. So go ahead. That's right. Yeah. I was thinking of the kill, we forgot to mention that kill we were talking about. Go ahead.
But again, I think the hype from everyone else kind of downplayed it for me at first. And after going back and rewatching them over and over and watching them more and more, I noticed more things. You can't blame it always
on everybody else because your husband is very enthusiastic and I'm very infectious.
And I see more things.
I could have done that to you too.
More out, and it's become one that I've grown to appreciate more as I watch it versus when I first watched it. But that's my 7.
Cool. So that's your 7. So now we're back on track. So we're 6. My 6 and 5 flip flop. So I'm gonna kind of even just now on my list I flipped them again. So take it for what it is. This is 6, and the next one's my number 5, or vice versa. So what I flipped it to was my number 6 is Part 5. Part 5, I love Part 5. A lot of people hate Part 5 because Jason's not in it, as we were just talking about. My wife will get into the Jason's not in it theory. However, it's the most sleazy one. The kills are fucking awesome.
The kills are fucking amazing.
Not to sound all I'm not anti Me Too, obviously, but I'm an older guy, so I'm gonna say it. Best tits in the series. I can't help it. And she was a Playboy Playmate. Come on.
Worst part is even I think they were the best tits in the series. Hello? They were gorgeous.
So I had to say that.
Okay, if there's ever going to be perfect nipple placement, it was on hers because she had the perfect tits in that movie. I'm sorry. There, I said it. Yes, I did.
But I don't know. I've always liked Part 5 as a kid. As a kid, I, in a weird way, tried to ignore in a weird way because I didn't want to accept it as a kid that it wasn't Jason. Because for the first time you're seeing it, however, I'm not saying I'm talking about times that I already know it's not Jason.
Right.
But for the first time, you think you're getting Jason. You just do. And I got to mention this too in the box set. One of the best commentaries on the new box set on there is from Adam Green and Joe Lynch. They have 3 commentaries, and we're huge fans of them, and we met them too. But I don't know. There's something about Part 5 I really like. I mean, the great kills that aren't even all just by imposter Jason. Like,
don't spoil my. Don't
no. I'm not. But the kill with what's his fucking name? I remember Vic, but it's the other fucking. They even say it like, I can't remember his name. But yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I can't believe I'm blanking.
Wow.
But he gets the axe in the back. But first he's like, here, Vic, don't tell the girls. I got a chocolate bar for you. But he's kind of special. And then Vic is like, gets all manly and testosterone and cracks the fucking thing with the axe. And he's like, well, if that's how you feel, you can forget it, Vic. Just forget it. I always got a kick out of that.
Oh my god.
There's a whole connection in the movie with that kid that I honestly kind of didn't put together when I was a kid, but I put together more as I was older. But that's Roy's son.
Right.
That's why he goes on his rampage.
Yes.
But yeah.
So I'll get into my Part 5 in a minute because that is higher up on my list. I do have a theory for Part 5, so...
It fluctuates for me. It's a great movie, regardless.
Listen to the podcast and wait till the very end, because that's when my theory will come out. But yes, I agree, Part 5. You flip-flopped in the past, and
not to interrupt, so I don't forget, his name was Joey.
Yes, Joey. It does not surprise me that it flip-flops for you. I think my favorite scene with Joey is when the girls are doing laundry, and because he has like a mental
with the chocolate
disability.
Yeah.
But like he's covered in chocolate, and he's like, "Oh, can I help?" And he picks up a white sheet
That's
with chocolate, and they're like, "Hey, Joey." I mean, he might not have even known any better. They are at a halfway house, and he does have special needs.
And you'll see that more than some people being a teacher.
Right, and being a teacher. Like, I feel for Joey in that movie. But anyway, are you...
No, I got a few more things
by
that
all
I definitely
means,
had to add.
because I'm not touching on 5 until later.
I gotta also definitely mention that this is the second movie in the Tommy Jarvis quote-unquote trilogy. I like the Tommy Jarvis in this one. He's not my favorite, but I'll get to the other 2 because obviously the other 2 are in my top 5 of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. But yeah, I don't know. There's so many good things I've always liked about Part 5, and I kind of am able to just push to the side that is not Jason or this or that. It was almost like a nice, like, all right, it was the final chapter. Let's try something fresh because they call it a new beginning, really. So they're kind of poking at like maybe this is different.
Right.
Like with the halfway type atmosphere and Reggie the Reckless. Thank you. I almost forgot.
Reggie.
Roy's kills good. Like he gets pushed off that thing and on those spikes. That's awesome. Oh, I can't forget my favorite line that I always say, which is a stupid thing, but Reggie the Reckless. It reminded me because you just said that. But he goes to see his brother briefly in a van, and that's I don't know if he lives there or not. But anyway,
it looks
he. It's stupid, but he has to he has to run to the bathroom. Those damn enchiladas! I don't know why I think that's funny. Another great actor. He was also in Return of the Living Dead. Another connection with Friday the 13th and Return of the Living Dead. But yeah, I really like 5. I really do. I hate to keep repeating it, but I don't. It's not my normal podcast where I'm going to go into every detail of the movie. Maybe I will someday. I don't know. But I really like 5. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I can think of, but I don't think so. I mean, I will say in this one, Tommy is definitely a bit more intense, I guess.
Yeah.
Because the simplest little things bother him, and he's like, he wants to fight him and stuff.
You can tell what's happened in his past is agitated.
Right. Which I do want to mention one thing. 2 of the greatest characters, and to some people could be the most annoying characters.
Oh my
god! When he beat up that fucking guy that has
on the motorcycle.
Oh my god! Why am I blanking on names? I'm never am, but when I'm on the spot.
Yes.
Anyway, he goes and tells his mom, and he's riding around his bike. Will you get off that fucking bike and come inside? You gotta have some of my stew. You know you love my stew. And then her kill is her stew, and I'm going over the whole movie, and he gets his head chopped off.
Yeah.
Will you shut the fuck up?
Yes.
You're not. I'll end with this. What did she say? Something like, you're not very good to look at either, or something like that. I know I ain't. I know. Okay,
right.
Go. We're into top 5, right?
No,
you're 6, and then we're in top 5.
And then top 5.
Yeah.
All right, my number 6 is the first of the Tommy Jarvis saga. It is part 4,
or the final chapter, depending on what.
Or the final chapter. I call it the first of the Tommy Jarvis series.
Right.
It's the least favorite out of the 3 for me. I think mainly because of the aspect, like, I'm a woods woman, as you call me. I was born in the woods. It's cabin in the woods. It's camping. It's everything that I loved. And it kind of made that a little more creepy for me in some specs. But at the same time, like, I think what bothered me for that one the most is Tommy is a young kid, and I know when we were camping as kids, we weren't allowed to go out without somebody else, and here's this young boy wandering the woods, and Jason really doesn't bother Tommy or his sister until halfway through the movie.
Well, yeah, because he's got to get through the neighbor house, and yeah.
It kind of, doesn't fit the storyline until the very end, which kind of made it hard for me to get into at first. However, like I said, it's my least favorite, but it's not completely horrible. There's some great kills in there.
I'll clarify. You mean least favorite in the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. Obviously not least favorite.
Right.
We already went over that.
I think one of my favorite kills has to be like... Oh, I don't even... Now I'm blanking. Like you. Ha.
Like Jason's kill, or...
Yeah.
You know what your favorite kill is.
Yeah. So my favorite kill has to be, and of course everybody does this kill. Like if you're on Facebook groups and social media,
well, it's great. It makes sense.
You see this a lot, and I totally agree with every single one of them. When, sorry, McFly reference here, but when he's looking for the corkscrew in the kitchen and he can't find it, and he yells, "Ted, where the hell's the corkscrew?"
His fucking face
makes me laugh so hard.
On the commentary,
he gets it shoved in his hand, and then he gets
Jason has it.
It's like the best, I think, for me out of the whole thing, especially just like knowing that his character on Back to the Future, and then he's in this horror movie, and he's still that goofy McFly character. But it just ties that whole movie in.
Sure.
To make it at least a decent watch in the Tommy Jarvis trilogy.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get into mine more when I get to mine.
You're right. Top 5.
Top 5. All right. This is the one that I kept flip-flopping with 5, and I know hers is probably lower, if not really low. Or not low, but higher. But my number 5 is 7.
Oh.
Again, not all 5, well, really all 5 throughout time has kind of interchanged and changed and this and that. This has been higher, but as of right now, it's 7. I mean, but there's so many great things, and that's not to say anything bad. I mean, that's the top 5, so it's still there. But there's obviously so many great things about it. Like it's Kane's first movie. I think it's probably the best looking Jason. Because he's really rotting at that point. I mean, he technically he's supposed to be a zombie as of 6 or whatever, like zombie-ish,
a zombie-ass.
But yeah, I know it might be lower for some people because of the whole like where they get Jason versus Carrie and things like that, and I guess I see that little connection, but it's so much better than just that. But a few things I'll mention about it is like favorite kill is cliche, but it's the sleeping bag kill. However, I prefer, unlike Kane said, he preferred the cut that they went with. The original cut, he was beating her up against that tree over and over, and I like that more. I think it's, but Kane thought it was more effective. Who am I to argue?
To do the one,
Guy's head that was squished, again, you see it better in like uncut clips and stuff that you would see also on the box set.
That would be a cool 3D kill.
When it's squished, yeah. Guy that gets his, what is that one? What did I write? The guy that gets hit in the face and face gets ripped through. What the fuck am I talking about? I don't know. There's so many good ones. If you know what I meant, then comment, but the horn in the eye, that was a good one. That
when they
fucking,
flip the camper,
that fucking girl, that's 6. That fucking girl with the axe to the head.
Oh yes, yes,
and
that was
I just love that kill. They show more again in the cut. Like 7 was fucking butchered when it came to like the.
Oh, totally.
But she gets the axe in the head. You see it way more. He throws her behind the TV. There's so many great things about it, and there's what else? The fucking my least favorite character in the whole franchise probably is that doctor, aka Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's. His kill, however, is great. Again, they show it way more in the cut version, in the uncut. But the weed whacker, which we actually have a picture signed by Kane with the weed whacker, but on the thing you see him go near his stomach, and then they showed his face, and he's like, ugh. But in the uncut, they really cut into his stomach, and it's
showed
pretty awesome.
Like blood splat.
There's so many things I wrote about this. That fucking, I think her name is Melissa character that's always trying to make Nick jealous, even though Nick could give a shit about her.
He doesn't care. That's like, it made me think of if you were in fucking high school.
Oh, for sure.
And she's
there goes the neighborhood.
She
had a good lines, though.
Cheerleader. And he'd be like the pro football star who is focused on his career versus girls. And she's like, oh my God, he's going to pay attention to me, pay attention to me.
Yeah, but he doesn't want to have anything to do with her.
Exactly, because he's more focused on what he needs. Yeah,
he wants Tina. Some other great lines that I like cold shower. I got a date with a soap on a rope. I'm like, what? Or
this prison reference, soap on a rope.
The silly one that's not, it's a line, but it's 2 words. But right before that girl dies, she's like, my earring. Yeah. Like right before she dies, like, her earring is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to her. And then she dies. What else? The guy that's just, he gets a present. I think it's his birthday. I can't even remember that part in the movie. He gets a present, and it's a personal penis enlarger.
Yes,
and it's a magnifying glass.
Yes. What am I supposed to do with this? Figure it out.
What else? The Kane on the porch, and the roof fucking falls on him, and that actually it's an effect, but it's real. It fell on Kane.
It actually fell on Kane. Yes.
He gets set on fire and falls through the stairs. He has so many great things in this, and that's why. A lot of people may argue of their favorite, and that's cool. Everybody's whatever, and I know it's cliche to say Kane, but Kane just did so much, and knowing Kane, he's just so great.
Yeah.
But I'll get to that at the end, because at the end, my little last thing or whatever, I'm gonna do my top 5 favorite Jasons, which I kind of just gave you my number 1. But anyway, what else? I'm trying to think. Oh, the with the car. I don't even remember. I wrote this part a while ago, but there's a car moment where he's like, "Well, when's the last time you put oil in this thing?" And he's like, "Yesterday." Obviously not, because of,
Yeah.
eat. What's another great line? Eat shit and die,
Shit and
fuckheads.
die. Yep.
Or the same guy that got the magnifying glass. I think, yeah, it's the same guy. He's like, because he's rejected by the girls, and he's like, "I've been rejected by some of the greatest science fiction magazines in the country." So I guess I'll end on that. Seven is in both of our opinions, obviously, because hers is even higher, and she'll get into hers. Is it's just great. There's just so many great things about it. It always flip flops for me, but I love Seven.
My number 5 is part 6 of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. It's the last one, but it is absolutely brilliant. Being the science geek that I am, the fact that they use a metal rod to try to kill him, and they tend to bring him back to life instead, spoiler alert, is
the beginning of Zombie Jason.
Absolutely brilliant. I think that is why it's part of my...
Oh, and I didn't talk about some of the great posters.
Top 5.
Six is a great poster.
6 is a fantastic poster, for many reasons. I think, for me, it brings solitude to Tommy Jarvis because he's a little bit older. He's reliving his first go-round with Jason.
Sure, and he's got out of the crazy place, and
he's slowly starting to come back to reality, but he's still kind of out there.
First and foremost,
And
finally, or whatever.
I think one of my favorite things, and it could be the wrong movie, is when he's in the car and she tells him to put his head down.
Oh, that's 6, yeah.
And he's got his head pretty much in her
Stay
crotch.
down, and then I love the camera.
Shoves him down,
camera
and
zooms
zooms right in on her crotch, and he can't go anywhere.
I don't know if that'd be accepted today.
Fantastic move. The car is amazing.
She's like, "Stay down," and he's like,
and she just all right. Okay. Like, what man would not disagree with that? What woman in this day and age wouldn't disagree with that? That is fantastic. Her driving skills are impeccable if that's actually how she was driving.
Right.
Because back then, things weren't always, impromptu cut in. They actually did them. So
right.
I give her props for driving because some of those were tricky corners.
Some I don't know about. I don't think about that, but some were still stunt drivers. But I don't think about her. Yeah.
The way they were slick in the jail with tricking the the cop to get him in there was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
The way they fight and bicker, you would have thought they were a married couple. I swear, sometimes. It is.
Oh, sure, they had great chemistry.
It is my part. Part 6 is my 5.
You started your top 5 now, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah. Is my number 5 in my top 5 list, mostly because it had a lot of funny aspects to it. It brought some sort of closure to the Tommy Jarvis trilogy. But it was nicely tied in with 4 and 5 to make it its own little Tommy Jarvis trilogy in the Friday the 13th franchise. So yeah, number 4.
Well,
if you have anything else,
I do, because my number 4 is number 6.
Well, take it away.
Oh man, again, you have to put an order somewhere, and it's painful even to be at number 4 because I love 6 so much. But again, they fluctuate. I've always loved 6. Like, as soon as I watched it, I love Tom Matthews. It's just a shame he didn't do more. I mean, he did this. He did Return of the Living Dead, as I mentioned before. He was in Return of the Living Dead Part 2 as a different character, even though he died in 1. But I won't get into that. Not in a funny way. But oh man, I love 6. A few of the things that I'm glad that you didn't mention that I can mention that we can add to it, like the great kill, the RV kill that you mentioned before.
Yes.
Like with the screwdriver in the ear, or the typical guy moment where they're having sex and it's like rocking, and she's like, "All right, just until the end of the song. he's like, how long?
how long's that? Yeah, how long's the song?
Or what he said, or maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was like just 10 more minutes or something like that.
Yeah, and
but,
the look on his face was like, I don't know if I can go that long.
And then they lose power, and she's like, oh, you weren't done. But that's cool because he's driving it. Her kill's cool.
Oh
where
my
she
God,
pushes
yes.
it through there, and I always found it interesting how they did that effect. They actually did it underwater.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that.
And that's how they were able to get the effect so
neat.
cool. They're pushing it through the sheet metal, whatever. That's
the side of the camper. That's cool.
CJ Graham is one of my absolute favorite Jasons. I'll get into that, my top 5. Obviously, I got to mention a big part of this and one of the coolest promo posters with Alice Cooper and Jason. And I finally got a T-shirt of that.
Soundtrack.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Soundtrack.
I finally got a T-shirt of that. Thank you. Oh, fuck, where did I get from? Where did I get? I remember where I got it from.
We'll post it in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely Alice Cooper. You get 2 great songs because in that scene is Hard Rock Summer, and then he did the song of all songs for the Friday the 13th franchise, just like Dokken did Dream Warriors and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. But was Man Behind the Mask. It hasn't lost nothing.
Oh my God, no.
Some people call it cheesy, I don't even look at it like that. I think it's just one of the greatest songs ever.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a little biased because it's Alice Cooper, and I have literally every album he's ever put out, which he's up to 28 now. But
that's only because your wife is amazing and buys every single one of them for you for Christmas for the last 14 years.
But yeah, what are some other great things like the bent in half back break?
When he bends her in half.
Megan's dad, who's the sheriff.
Yeah.
They changed the name of the place in this one, like Lake Forest Green.
Yes, it's not Crystal Lake.
They tried something different. The classic horror references, like Karloff. I think it was like Karloff Cafe for Boris Karloff, and
yes, the little insinuendos for
things.
other.
For like
other
classic movie monsters they put in there.
Yes.
The one that geeks out us as well as our kids. It's such a stupid line, but it's the way it segues, and the cut is brilliant with the caretaker at the cemetery where he finds Jason and his foot's out, and he's like, "You can't even bury him right," and things like that. Or it's like, do they think I'm a fart head? Yes! And they cut to the kids there. We didn't mention that. Thank you.
My God.
We already talked about 1 and 2, but you got to mention Ralph. He's one of the greatest characters. You're all doomed.
You're all doomed. And I haven't got to my part 2 yet.
It's got a death curse. Oh, sorry. That's right.
It's okay.
I have a few more things. So what are you going to... Oh... The kids under the bed. So what were you going to be when you grew up?
Yeah, what were you going to be when you grew up?
Which, he didn't kill any of the kids. So again, almost like little children and kids. Although he did try to kill Tommy, but I think it could have been aggravated too. I don't know.
I wonder if the reason he tried to kill Tommy was because Tommy was coming back at him versus...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Versus cowering. Like, the kids in that camp were all hiding from him. They were all scared. Maybe that brought him back to when he was at the camp and a kid, and he was scared and he was terrified, and that's why he didn't go after them. Whereas Tommy was fighting back with the other kids, and he was like, "Okay, if you're gonna fight me, I'm gonna fight you." Yeah, like no hold bars.
But yeah, 6 is definitely one that I could do a whole episode about. I just remembered it wasn't Karloff's Cafe; it was Karloff's General Store because he was talking to her on the phone. One of Tommy's or Tom's lines that I love is when he's trying to lure Jason into the water that he's not afraid of. He's like, "Come on, maggot head, you pussy!" I always love how he says pussy, you pussy!
He's got to emphasize that.
I could just go on and on and on and on about this movie, but the caretaker's kill I always loved too because it was so simple. Oh yes, because he essentially gave Jason the weapon because he threw his liquor bottle. He just broke it enough and shoved it into his neck or whatever. Yep. That was so great. And then the end is great with Tommy and spoiler alert, Tommy doesn't die, but it's the end of his story in the series. Yep. He does get Jason to the bottom of Crystal Lake. That was his whole point. Like, get him back to Crystal Lake. Like they say, like, his original resting place, even though technically he didn't die there anyway. So why would you do that? But anyway,
which is why he returns in part 7.
It's just
because that wasn't his final resting place.
Right, right. But why in 7? How they did it was because of her powers.
No, we'll get to that.
But yeah, I think that's all I have for my number. What was it for?
That was your number 4.
But man, I could just go on and on about 6, but we got to finish it we got to finish someday.
We're getting there.
All right, we're in the top 3 now, right? Or is this your 4?
My 4. My 4.
Okay, your 4.
My 4, I'm sure, is higher up on your list because you haven't talked about it yet. If it's not your favorite, it's at least one of the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
My 4 is part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. It's a great movie. I absolutely love it. I love the concept of the fact that Jason has left Crystal Lake. He is no longer in the woods. He is branching out, so to speak. How did he get there? Well, if you actually know anything about bodies of water, lakes are connected to rivers. How do you think it became a lake? It's got to have a water flow somewhere. Therefore, the lake goes into a river. He took a boat. He was under...
But they ended up in the ocean or something.
He was under the water.
Whatever.
Right. So a river connects to a lake. The lakes then flow out into seas and oceans. They only go so far. Most of Earth is made of water. Anyway, don't get me on that tangent. He leaves the lake. He goes to Manhattan. He doesn't know what to do. However, my favorite kill of this whole movie is one that you don't even get to see. And I know I'm going to be a little hypocritical here of myself.
But even Kane thought it was impressed and thought it was unique.
Because in my lower ones, I've said there wasn't enough gore. This one, there isn't a lot of gore in my favorite kill. And I will say that.
There isn't much of anything in it.
It leaves you wanting more. My favorite kill in part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, has to be the guitar kill when she's playing her guitar in the stairwell. And you only see the shadow of him killing her. You don't actually see how he does it. Like, you see him bring it up. You don't know if did he cut her throat with a string? Did he beat her to death with it? Did he
I'm gonna go with
break it in half? Did he break it in half and shove half of it up? You don't see the full thing.
What?
Yeah, I'm getting a little... It's Jason, you never know. But you don't see the full effect, so it leaves you wanting more from that kill. And it is my favorite. I think it's the most brilliant kill out of the entire franchise. For that reason, it's my favorite kill. I think for me, this one didn't have as much gore as the other ones. But being on a boat, it had just enough. The fact that he throws a guy off the mast of the ship and just like out of nowhere is like, nope, you're done, bye, see you later, and throws him off like he's a fucking stick is fantastic. When they're on the dance floor and he just picks the girl up and strangles her to death until her feet stop moving. And then the thump on the floor. Like, my question though is for that is, yes, he choked her. How do you know she's not dead?
Oh, I don't know.
Because he throws her...
If she wasn't dead, the thud killed her.
He throws her on the floor.
Yeah.
But he could have choked her enough to make her pass out.
Right.
When you pass out, you stop moving.
True, but...
So he might have thought she was dead and she's not.
You think
Who
the
knows?
slam would probably
so even that kind of leaves you wondering, like, did he really kill her? Or did she just pass out and he thought she was dead? You don't know. It's the most creative, I think, out of all of the Friday the 13th. With just the way he does his killings and different things. And, I mean, it's not my favorite, but it's definitely my top 4.
Well, is that all you have for 8?
Yeah.
Because I had a bunch of different things in my number 3, and I think this will be our last coinciding one, but my number 3 is 8. I've always loved 8. I don't give a fuck about the naysayers. To each your own. Blah blah blah. You didn't. How do you get here? And how does it?
I explained how you get there. Lakes, rivers, and streams are all connected.
Or my favorite one. Jason takes Vancouver because you only see New York a little bit. Guess what? You still fucking saw it. He's down. He's in. This is my rant. Sorry. You see Times Square, so ergo, but most of the time it's recorded in Vancouver because it was cheaper. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, again, I don't focus on those things, and I'm not trying to be a dick about it. I'm just saying, like, I focus on movies just to focus on a movie and have a good time. I'm not going to worry about every little inconsistency, like this doesn't match and this doesn't match. You know what? It's not, again, that's my cliche, that classic thing I say, but it's not reality. Just go with it. Anyway, my rant's over. On to the good things about it, but they're just like my favorite kill may be like a popular one, but the head punch, that's always great. But
knocks his head off.
He gave him a chance. That guy beat the shit out of him to a degree. At least he could have if it was a regular person.
He tried.
But Jason was just tiring him out, if you think about it. And then Jason with one punch punches his head off, and and that brilliant where it drops down and it hits the dumpster and the dumpster shuts. It's so great.
Perfect.
Same guy, one of my favorite lines he says is "School's out, McCullough." I love the song at the end.
Yes.
The commentary with Kane is great. That's on the Blu-ray, and I think it's on the
fantastic.
It's on every. I think it's on every Blu-ray that has come out. It's not on the DVD, but commentary's great. I've watched it with the commentary like 3-4 times now, and that's saying a lot because usually I listen to commentary once or twice unless it's something significant like this one or
there's something new in
it, or there's a new commentary or whatever. But Adam Green and Joe Lynch's commentaries I always love. I went into that, but I've just always loved 8, and I understand this and that and the inconsistencies. And Jason looks different. That's another thing that some people don't get. But you got to remember, these are different people making these movies.
Exactly.
This is more slimy as in 7. He was rotting, and
I think in part 8 too. Like part 8 is what made me appreciate the other movies more. Like it made me go back and appreciate 1 through 4.
That's cool.
And Part 8 made me realize, like, don't overthink things. Go back and rewatch as if I'm watching it for the first time. And what did I notice
it also
this
probably
time?
Helps that I'm very passionate about
What is it that I noticed this time that I didn't notice last time? What is it that was different? What did I see? So part 8 had a huge influence in having me understand the rest of them more.
Gets a lot of hate.
But I'll never understand Jason Goes to Hell because it just sucks.
I understand.
Anyway.
And on the other hand, I was just going to say, with Jason Takes Manhattan, in my opinion, it gets so much undeserved hate. But you know what? Somebody could say the same thing about Jason Goes to Hell, but what the cool thing is everybody has their own opinions.
And that's just it.
And that's
what makes it so much better.
I heard this line, so I heard it today, and I told Jen about it from a guy on YouTube. I forgot his name, but I'm not taking credit for it. That he said,
oh yeah,
the classic thing of everybody has assholes.
Yeah, opinions
are
like assholes.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, but he changed the last thing to just don't be an asshole about it. Like just don't be that. Just don't be one or whatever.
It was everybody's opinions are like assholes. Just don't be one.
Yeah, exactly. So like people that get upset and angry just because you don't agree about the movie or what, who cares?
Well, and
who cares?
And this podcast goes to show, like, our lists 1 through 11 are completely different on 90% of our aspects. Yeah. Like, if you were to go through 1 through 11, there are a few that are the same, there are a few that are different, but everybody's opinions are different. He absolutely loves 8. My favorite is an 8. It's a little different.
It's not my favorite either. It's number 3, but it's goddamn close.
Right. My number 3.
Your number 3?
Unless you have anything else to say.
Well, there's always great things to say, but again, this is one of the few that I mentioned that I could do an episode about, but I think 8's probably one that I would love to do an episode about.
Yeah.
This just goes right into the movie and talks about the whole movie. And maybe some people don't like the structure of how I do that because I give maybe too much away. I understand that, but I just have fun talking about it. But there's just so many things great about 8.
Yeah.
That I just don't want to forget. But we do have to move on a bit. We do have children, and it's getting late. But
we're getting there.
The radio. That's a cool scene. Like they're blasting music, and Jason comes through and he kicks the fucking radio. This is when they're in New York. Sorry. And he kicks the fucking radio, and then they're like, "What the fuck, man?" And got one with a switchblade, and all Jason has to do is show his face. And they're like, "It's cool, man. It's cool.
We're good."
Which leads me into the last thing I will say, that people, and I understand why they don't understand this, but it still doesn't take me away from it, because in a way, you could look at this, like, if you did ignore 9, 10, and whatever came after it,
right?
This was the last Paramount.
Yeah. Yep.
And they made it full circle. Sure, it's a little hokey and like, what? Yeah. When the toxic waste comes through,
right?
Jason throws up, which Kane actually threw up because he can throw up on demand. He just drank a gallon of water and he threw up. I can do the same thing. Anyway.
Gross.
But the sewage takes over him and then he turns back into a kid. I think people sometimes, like, and this is just my take on it. Right. You might be taking it too literally. I think it's more metaphorical, like it came full circle.
Right, like
when at the end, all he really was still that little boy, and he was just trying to, like, you know.
He was trying to justify what he saw, and it's almost like, for those of you who are into, like, the paranormal, it's almost like that paranormal aspect of him seeing himself, like his soul is leaving his body. But when you pass on, it's said, and I said, I don't know, but it's been said, that when you pass on, you go to a time when you weren't in pain, when you aren't suffering, when you were fine, and maybe that was their way of tying everything in. Like, maybe he did die in the lake, and this is all just somebody's story and the way they...
Oh, I don't want to look at it
the way they see it, and then they see, like, I don't know, it's just...
It's almost like pick one or don't, but
like it's your
I see it just coming as full
it's full circle.
I see it as full circle, and it's more metaphorical than trying to explain it.
Right.
Like, because he was a little boy when he initially was supposed to drown.
Right.
I've never thought of what you said. Granted, it was just an example, but it scared me. What do you mean it wasn't there? No, it was there. It was there.
It was there. It was there.
But I love the ending, like, before they go up, and then again another classic scene where you think the dog's dead, and they get out of the sewer, and he's right there. He's fine. But when the mask floats away, I think that is the perfect ending, even better so than what the final chapter was supposed to be. When they, I mean, granted, that fucking kill's great, and I'll get into that. Or, as you have definitely talked about, that you hate 9, but as that as an ending, in a way I never thought about it, but the end of 8 is in a way a perfect ending. I think. But yeah.
All right. For my 3, I picked part 2. It's my number 3 because I think it's the most unique. I think my favorite kill in part 2, and I could be wrong, is the guy in the wheelchair. I think is the most creative. Part 2 shows that, I mean, yes, Jason doesn't go after kids. Yes, he doesn't go after pets, but he doesn't discriminate as far as disabilities.
No. Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because, like, a lot of movies nowadays, it's like, oh my god, he has a disability, don't do anything to him, oh my god, like, that type of aspect, versus part 2 shows, like, it doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair, if you're handicapped, crippled, whatever, it just shows that there is no inequality, I guess you would say, between the movies, which I thought is really cool. The fact that he gets a fucking machete, or a large knife, as some people would say, to the face.
One comment I have about it is, I wonder if it's this, and I never get deep into this because it's the main thing a lot of people say, but the whole, like, sex equals death and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Kind of like they talk about on Screaming. It seems that way. I don't really get into that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Sure. We'll go with sure. He was paralyzed, but he still could do things, and he was probably going to do something with that girl.
Right.
That's kind of what I looked at it like.
Right, and that's absolutely it. And the fact that, you have that, kind of thing going on, but the way they did it so that his chair rolls down this long flight of stairs,
it's a long
and the
one,
extended cut is even long. Like it shows him like going faster.
I kind of like
down
that
the
too.
stairs.
That I didn't mention on the freeze frame on the kills. Sometimes like it gets to a point and then it freezes and then it gets really bright and then it goes to the next scene.
Yeah, that was definitely awesome. I definitely think part 2 is underrated as far as some things go. Are the kills as awesome as most of them? No, but they're still unique. The fact that the guy gets his throat slashed when he's hanging upside down from a rope in a tree is pretty stellar. The fact that she leaves him to go get help and comes back and thinks he's still alive and he's dead. How do you not see a pool of blood under somebody? That's my question.
Yeah.
Like, why do you not look down? I know for me, I would look down. Yeah, I think it's a very underrated movie for the franchise, and I definitely put it in my top 3 because of that. Yeah.
Awesome. And I was going to mention Ralph, but we did it before because I forgot, and I thought you forgot because I couldn't remember where your 2 was. But anyway, we got Ralph in there, so I think that's good.
Yep. All right.
Did you want to say anything more about Amy Steele, or did we kind of cover that?
We kind of covered Amy. It's definitely a cool movie. All right.
1 and 2 is the same as my 6 and 5. It flip flops all the time. I'm just going with this, and it's just the sake of a fucking order and I say it like that because it was frustrating when I initially did it. Like it's gonna be one or the other.
And the next time you watch them, it'll reverse.
So in a way, I guess these are like equally. But at the same time, when I really watch them again and narrowed it down,
sit down and watch them.
It is this order, and my number 2 is number 3. The beginning of Jason as with the mask and one of my favorite Jasons. Rest in peace, Richard Brooker, who died way too soon.
Oh my God.
What else? My favorite Final Girl is in it. Chris, and it's not just because she's awesome. I think it was her little backstory was a little weird. Some people think she's a little whatever because she's maybe not as strong as the Final Girl. I think she's my favorite. I don't know why. She just is.
She was a different Final Girl, which made it nice.
She's hot.
She is.
There's 2 hotties in this one. Her and I wrote it down because I knew I'd forget her name, but or maybe I didn't. But it's the other girl that's with Andy, the one that
what is her name? It's on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, I'll remember it after.
Yep,
we'll post it in the comments after.
But yeah, 3's great. There's not a lot I can say about it. I do not hate the scene, but it was one of those scenes like, oh fuck you, because I understand what it's like to struggle when that fucking bitch that was at the convenience store and we don't take no food stamps. Fuck you. Anyway, that's the first instance. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. I could be wrong, but it's the first time I remember seeing anything about New Jersey. I don't know if it was in 2 or 1. But it was prominent at the store in 3 that it was New Jersey.
Absolutely.
A lot of people hate Shelley. I kind of like him, but he gave him his mask.
I like Shelley.
He's definitely that one in the group that people like poke fun at or whatever, but at least they accepted him and whatever.
My favorite kill in that one is definitely when she gets shot with the harpoon in the eye.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites for sure. That was great.
Like, the way it just zooms in as they do it and they show the effect, it's so cool.
The whole thing, even after that, it's so great because when Jason walks away... When Jason walks away and he drops the harpoon gun, and he's kind of walking like this.
I was like, I got
fucking
accuracy.
Right.
Fuck yeah.
But yeah, Shelley, I guess I get why some people be annoyed by Shelley. Shelley's the one that's always doing all the pranks and things like that. And but yeah, she mentioned harpoon in the water. Shelley's line that they said they're going skinny dipping, and I'm not skinny enough. That's a great line. I love Andy's kill when it was totally different, and how they did it with a mirror was cool when he's walking on his hands, and Jason comes down and like,
just,
I wish I would have been able to see more of that kill, and he pretty much like cuts him in half.
Yeah, he like slices him in half, but they only show part of it.
There's a thing that some people might not be too keen on that I have to point out that I shouldn't point out, but if you've seen it, you probably know that it was kind of ballsy of the time. It may or may not happen now, but a little thing that may have been forgotten about, but Andy's girlfriend that I can't fucking remember her name, and I thought I wrote it down anyway, she's actually newly pregnant, and she gets killed, so it's kind of like one of those taboo things. But Jason doesn't fucking know that. He just killed a girl, you know? I don't look at it like, oh, I killed a baby. No, he didn't know she was pregnant. But that might take somebody out of it. Not me particularly, but Shelly's kill is cool, even though you don't see it, and they treat it like he's doing another prank, but his throat slit is so big.
It's massive.
And, but yeah, that's great. I love how they incorporated that into the game as well as others that in the game, because the cabin that they're in is in the game. I just love so many things about 3.
When they go to the electrical box downstairs to check the lights, that's in the game.
That dude that I can't remember his name again, that looks like Chong, that's his kill because he pushes him into the box. The game is fucking annoying because if he sees you, then
you have to start over.
Anyway, but yeah, I love 3. I love 3 so much.
Throw a theory out there that just came to me. With the girl being pregnant, it would have been interesting if they tied Jason Goes to Hell, the girl behind the counter, if that had been like the baby.
Weird.
Like if the baby survived.
You come up with some things that are like,
and that would have brought it full circle to make more sense as to why Jason went for her is because maybe. I don't know.
I honestly don't think he knew, but as again I remember when I remember it's Debbie.
It's one of those that would be really it would be really interesting if that was like somehow intertwined,
right?
To make it a little more like, I don't know, in depth. But that's just a theory.
But yeah, Deb was Andy's girlfriend. The other one that I said was hot, and now that I'm thinking about it, the girl who played Vera, who was Shelly's kind of, not his girlfriend, but they were kind of set up on a blind date.
His interest.
Because they're set up on a blind date, and then when he met her, and he's like, sorry. Like, because of himself.
Right,
like, sorry.
Yeah, like, can't help it.
But yeah, there's so many great things about 3. Again, that could be probably I could probably do the top 5 now that I think about it. Separate podcasts and really dissecting more. And I know a lot of people aren't too keen about the 3D, but when some of the 3D I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Some of it works, some of it doesn't.
Right.
Our son loves 3D, so that 3's his favorite because of the 3D, I think.
Right.
But some of the stuff is good, like gross out things like the eyeball that's like right here.
Yeah, like pops out at you, yeah.
I must be in heaven. Or even the guy at the beginning, those are good kills. Like the fucking knitting needle through the backside of her head that doesn't come out her mouth.
Yes.
The guy that was her husband and had that little store, and she was always giving him shit.
Yes,
he's eating shit with the bunny rabbit. I always see him. I don't even remember his name in the movie or his real name, but I always point it out because I'm such a horror nerd, because I love a lot of things other than horror, like comedies and things like that. And I've been rewatching Married with Children, and he pops up as one of Al's friends now and then. I'm like, hey, that's that guy from... But some of the, like I said, some of the 3D works, I didn't always know this, I will say that, because growing up, there was no 3D version. 3D version didn't come out until the DVD.
Right.
Even not the first DVD, the DVD after that. But yeah. I could go on and on about it. I love the kill with one of the biker guys. Where he kind of has 2 kills because he cuts off his hand.
Right. And
you think he's dead, not because of his hand, but he beats him or something.
Yeah.
And then he comes back a little later to try to help the girl, and then he does in fact get killed. That was a good one, but But yeah. I guess that's my take on 3. I've rambled on a bit.
And that was your number 2, correct?
That was my number 2.
All right, my number 2, and I'm gonna totally throw you off with this, and you're gonna be like, "Wait, what?"
Yep.
Is Part 7.
No, it doesn't throw me off at all. Oh, why? Because it's not 1?
Part 7 is not my favorite.
Oh.
Shocker. Anyway, Part 7 is my number 2. I really like the fact it goes into the supernatural aspect. She's got abilities. I think what I really love about that movie is the fact that Jason isn't just going after teenagers. This is a front woman, brought him back from the depths with her psychic abilities, then to turn around and be the front woman main character throughout the whole movie, that Jason's literally just going after her over and over again in some aspect. Whether it's the kid she's hanging out with in the cabin next door, whether it's the fact of now he's going after her mom. She's seeing through his eyes certain things that are happening. It's a whole whirlwind of a story plot that ties in the rest of the movies, but also makes it its own thing.
Oh, sure.
The fact that he's not going toe-to-toe with just some teenagers. He's going toe-to-toe with a woman.
Right.
With special abilities. In this day and age, there are tons of people that are into the psychic aspect of other things and the paranormal, and that kind of ties the whole movie in, and I really get into that with depth. I think my favorite part in that movie that we've touched on is the fact that some of the parts Kane physically did himself, not just a stunt double.
Right. Exactly.
Because he's a stunt actor. I don't think
Kane ever had stunt double.
Because he's a do-it-yourself stunt actor. The roof falling on him actually fell on him. The fact that he was actually set on fire after being burned heavily in younger years. Like, to go and fight that fear and be on fire after having significant burns previously. It was, like, it's huge. But knowing Kane and getting to meet him is huge. I would love to meet the actress that plays Tina. Because she is a huge female role in the franchise. Yeah. She's not just this hussy bimbo who wants to get laid. And I think that's what makes this movie different, is the fact that her role isn't about sleeping with somebody else. Her role is about overcoming her loss of her father and fighting this evil. Yeah. And now she's got to fight an even bigger evil. It just makes the whole movie different and unique, and my top 2.
Awesome. Well, I didn't have anything to add because I already did mine.
Right.
But if you're good, I'll do my 1, and since you're the guest, you can be the final. You can be the final girl.
Ooh, final girl. Love it.
So if everybody's keeping tally, they probably already know what our number 1s are, or they're just having fun with it. But my number 1 that flip-flops with 3, that I love 3 so much, but it inches its way into number 1 because there's just so many great things it has going for it. Mine is Friday the 13th, the final chapter, a.k.a. Part 4. I know Joe Bob hates it when people call it Part 4. I had to add that. I thought that was funny, but I was like, well, it is 4 because it's not the final chapter. It initially was supposed to be, but anyway, it just got so many good things going for it. Like, I really think Corey Feldman did a great job in it.
Corey Feldman did a great job.
I like the whole thing that we briefly talked about. There was a connection with the remake, reboot, Part 11, whoever calls it. With the sister. With the whole sister and him looking. That's in here. He doesn't find her. He actually dies in this one.
Yep.
Trish isn't too bad as the final girl, but you don't really focus on her. You more focus on Tommy, I think.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that, a little side note, that when Tommy shaves his head at the end to try and get Jason to think almost like, I don't think he's making him think it's him, but almost like to relate to him. I don't know, because, again, almost like the full circle thing in 8 when he's a little boy again. Like, this whole time, it's like he's a little boy in there at that. Because at this point, he's still technically human.
Yeah.
But when he shaves his head, that's not him shaving his head. because his mom wouldn't let him, because when the movie was over, it was pilot season for TV shows, and he couldn't audition with a shaved head.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a little side note. You touched on a few things. Of course, I'm going to mention it too. My favorite kill is your favorite kill. Ted!
Where the hell's the corkscrew? Ted!
But even further with that intensity of that fucking corkscrew in his hand. And then, but even further in that, because yes, he's dead, but his kill isn't really over, because there's that one scene where you see him later, and Jason puts spikes through like his hands right here, and then he's hanging at the back door, and Jason just rips him down, and you see his hand one of those, like
it's like a cringeworthy.
Ted's kill is pretty cool, I think. He actually got stoned for the actor, and he doesn't recommend that whatsoever.
Yes,
he wanted to calm down, but it actually made him more paranoid.
Yeah.
When Jason was killing him, but he got because the film broke and he couldn't see, and he was like this, and he got stabbed in the back of the head, but through the screen. That was cool. But there's so many great things. It has Ted White is a great Jason. Another side note thing that you'll find out in documentaries, that he fucking hated Corey Feldman, but I think he hated children. Like, he wasn't a children guy.
Right.
Maybe not. That's my take on it. Maybe Corey Feldman was just
annoying. Maybe
to him. He was. Who knows? But
and he was a kid back then, so maybe it was the 50 questions. What are you doing? How are you doing?
Yeah.
What do you know? Where do you live? What do you? And you're just like, oh my god, shut up. Like,
I love because this is the beginning of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, and the reason why he was called Tommy in the first place was because of Tom Savini and the things that Tom Savini was like a lot of his makeup things and his monster masks in the movie. That are Tommy's. Cool. Those are Tom's. Those are Tom Savini's. I thought that was cool.
And there's little homages to movies in that too, because one of the masks is a werewolf, so it's just kind of cool to.
I know there's another thing with Tom Savini that he always said he gave birth to Jason, because he did the effects on Jason in one when he was a little boy which that could be what people get confused sometimes. Like, how does that work if he was a little boy and he jumped out of the river? That's not real.
Right.
That was her dream.
That was her dream.
But he did the makeup effects on that, so he always made a quote of saying, I gave birth to Jason, now I can kill him. And Jason's kill is fucking amazing, and it's so slow, and I'm surprised how much they could show. Because it's like in the middle of his head, the fucking machete. It's almost and it was like his weapon killing him.
Yeah.
And in a way, I mean, that could have been the end of Jason. I'm thankful that it wasn't. But however, the director and other people involved, like Joseph Zito, who also directed a classic Maniac, which Tom Savini also worked on. He's even said in interviews, he's like, I know this is supposed to be the final chapter, but they're like, we know that these movies are just making too much money. They're going to continue. They're going to do something. And that's where R5, a new beginning. But but yeah. What?
No, go ahead.
But there's so many other things that I definitely want to mention. Like the dead fuck thing. I still say that to people. Well, there's no computer, is there, Ted? And he just types it in. He's like, I'm mixing up things, but I love how he types it in. He's like, what? It says you're a dead fuck. Well, how does it, what do you mean a dead fuck? I don't know. It says you're a dead fuck. And from before, his name was Jimmy. Like, we couldn't think of Crispin Glover's fucking name. I thought of Jimmy. Trish, and I thought of,
Jimmy.
But, I love that. You always see me geeking out because I just love the beginning scene with the guy that's from Police Academy, and he's not a nerd in this. He's a total, like, hey, baby kind of guy with the nurse.
Like a creeper.
And then, some of the lines that come out of that, like when Jason's hand falls out and it touches her, and she's like, ah! And she freaks out. I love some of her lines, like, Axel, you're the Super Bowl of self-abuse. Or when that happens with the hand thing, and it freaks out even, Axel is Jesus Christmas! Holy Jesus, goddamn, holy Jesus, jumping Christmas shit! I'm like, where the fuck did that line come from?
Or did he make it up on the spot?
He could have.
And they were like, let's leave it.
Another thing with Axel I wanted to mention is his kill is so fucking good because he saws his fucking neck. I wish you could see more of this. Then he twists his head off. I'm like, oh my god, that's got to be one of the greatest kills ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number one. I know a lot of people say it's their number one. I'm not trying to be cliche. I just genuinely think it's that great of a movie, and I just love it. So, I'm going to narrow it down to probably 3, and you'll probably see in the future episodes about Friday the 13th. I'm so glad we finally got to dive into this. We've been talking about it forever and a day. And I'm a procrastinator, so sometimes it takes me forever to do podcasts, but I'll stop rambling so Jen can have her number 1, and we'll go on to the last thing.
My number 1 is, we've touched on a little bit, but it's number 5 for those of you that have been paying attention. Bravo for guessing it.
Weird, but I get it.
For those of you following, 5 is my favorite for several reasons.
Now, not to interrupt, would it technically be your favorite Friday the 13th as opposed to favorite Jason movie?
It's my favorite. Or
it kind of goes both because of your theory.
It's my favorite in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Okay.
But
that's
also
right, because that's not what
this
is about. It's Friday the 13th. So yeah.
But it's also my favorite in my theory aspect of Jason.
Right. Anyway, sorry.
So I think it's my favorite for the fact that it left me guessing when I first watched it. You've touched on, when you first watch it, you think oh my god, you think you're getting a Jason, and then you realize at the end, spoiler alert, it's not actually Jason.
Mm-hmm.
I think my favorite character in this movie has to be Reggie.
Yeah.
Here's this little spunky kid who I could totally see myself being, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to overcome my fear. Fuck you. You're going to come at me, I'm coming at you. And Reggie is another kid in the series that Jason does go after because he fought back. He didn't just take his shit. He didn't cower and hide. He was like, look, fuck you. I'm taking over.
Fucking, what is that, a wheel? What is that?
When he gets the backhoe.
Okay, I didn't know what it was called.
In the movie, I think it's supposed to be a farm tractor.
Right.
But it's more heavy-duty sounding than a farm tractor.
Hit with that for real.
Oh my god!
Like, there was his chest here and the tendon.
It would crush ribs for sure, especially if you got it up to a perfect.
Might kill you if you're fast enough.
If you could. So Reggie is definitely my favorite character. The reason Part 5 is my favorite is because of my theory. Now, I'm copywriting this theory on this podcast, so you may not take it. It is copywritten. It is my thought, my theory. That's it. My theory, go back and watch Friday the 13th Part 5 for this reason. While you're watching 5, watch the kills. Because there are some, you can tell, aren't actual Jason kills. There are parts, and I'm not going to give them away because I want you to go back and watch them and make your own decisions. But there are kills in 5 that would not be a typical Jason kill, or a typical way that Jason would do it. Then there are some, however, that are typical Jason kills, like iconic. You'd see them in other parts of movies in the franchise. What if, now hear me out, Imposter Jason and actual Jason Voorhees are both making kills in this movie. You don't see actual Jason because they're all focused on the imposter. He's getting away with certain things because the imposter is the focal point of this movie. That being said, what happens if the end of the movie did not end with him falling out of the hayloft because of Reggie and the house mother of the psych house? I can't think of her name.
Oh. Yeah.
We'll post it in the comments.
Or I'll think of it.
Or you'll think of it. What if the movie ended with Jason versus Imposter Jason?
Yeah.
Who would win? I mean, you don't really know. The imposter has some really authentic kills in the movie.
I knew I'd think of it.
However,
her name's Pam.
However, Jason is, at this point, immortal. He's zombie. He can't be killed. It would be interesting to watch the imposter Jason come face to face with the actual Jason. Would he be confused? Would he accept him? Would he go after him at all? You don't know. But it's interesting to think. Go back and watch the movie and see if you can pick out which kills would be imposter and which kills would be authentic Jason kills. Because you don't see it until... I didn't notice it until the second time I watched the movie, and then I was like, holy shit, what if there's two killers?
Not to give away certain kills you might be talking about, but I never thought about the flip of this because of your theory. And again, it's just a theory.
It's a theory.
But people are like, oh my god, I can't believe it. What? It's a theory. It's an idea. Chill out. But there were times when initially, on the surface, without the theory, you could look at... Because there was a lot of eye kills.
Right.
Like the girl that we said, the best tits or whatever.
Right.
She got the fucking...
Clippers
through her eyes, and then
clippers.
the guy with the belt, and he just kept tightening it around his eyes.
Right.
Initially, you'd think, when you find out, like, could that have been a metaphor for, like, he didn't want you to see you? But could it be the reverse of that? I just added to that to your theory. Like, could some of those kills be Jason, and he doesn't want you? I mean, Jason's not thinking it that much at that point, but hypothetically.
But that's what I'm saying is... You've got imposter Jason, who's the focal point, who they're trying to figure out who this man is and what he's doing. He's shown himself to Reggie. He's shown himself to Tommy. He's shown himself to Pam. But yet you've got other kills in the movie that are more authentic Jason.
Come on, motherfucker, ring star.
To where you wonder... Are there two killers in this movie, and you're only focusing on the one imposter Jason versus the actual Jason? And it would be neat to eventually show, like, if they showed both Jasons, one with the blue mask, one with the red mask, and what they were doing, and the fact that one of them is an imposter, and at the end, what if it wasn't the imposter that they killed, and it was the actual Jason? Like, it's all a theory. It's just my theory. But it's what makes me love Part 5 the most out of the entire franchise, is the fact it is so different. It's so much that you can pull out, and you could write a whole nother Jason movie based on a theory from part of this movie.
Yeah.
But Part 5 is my number one. As the final girl, that's my favorite is Part 5.
Okay. I just didn't want to interrupt because I didn't have to do with that, but It's interesting you say that because I also thought of this as somebody's theory. The fan movie that I want to watch with you. It's free on YouTube if everybody wants to. There's a lot of fan movies. I'm not usually into fan movies because I don't know why. But Friday the 13th Vengeance is so fucking good, and that's kind of like a theory thing of what if it didn't go to Part 7?
Right.
What if this was because it takes place right after Part 6.
Exactly.
And it's just a kind of a play on that. And the interesting, cool thing is CJ Graham is in it, and he's Jason's dad, who they never talked about, but they talked about in the novelization. Right. And CJ Graham, who played, it's a weird...
Yeah.
Played Jason in 6, is now the dad of Jason, and it's cool because he still has the same, like tool belt from 6 in the movie still. There's people in it that I just, like, Darcy the Mail Girl, if anybody, from the fame of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob currently, she's in it. There's an awesome guy that is on YouTube and does a lot of things for his company, 7th Street Productions. He's on it. But I wanted to add that at the end. And I also wanted to quickly... But yeah, that is our top ranking of the Friday the 13th franchise. I had a lot of fun. I'm glad we finally did it. I find my wife's theory interesting. Some people might not. Some people might take it with a grain of salt, but I think it's a really cool idea. It could even been a novelization of that. You could do a comic of that theory.
Who knows?
Anything.
Maybe
you could do another movie, like a fan movie.
Maybe I'll write my own fan movie on that theory. Hence the reason it's copyright. It's my theory.
But I did want to mention this, and as a kid too, I don't know if I tried to ignore that it wasn't Jason, or what, or maybe I didn't notice those things like I do as an adult. But as an adult watching it, if it was my first time, I might have an idea there was something off on the aspect of his mask was different.
Right.
But then at the same time, he could have got a different mask.
Exactly.
Because of the blue instead
exactly.
of... Yeah. But I will be definitely doing more podcasts soon. We will be doing another podcast, hopefully soon. We're going to be doing They Live episode. It's the first time I've mentioned it, I think.
My favorite movie.
Overall, general, right?
That I touched base on in the very beginning. It is the sci-fi aspect horror movie that I fell in love with. We'll get more into it when we talk about it on the podcast, but it is my overall all-time favorite horror movie. And I'll leave it at that.
This is completely out of place, and it's not directed at you, but the line I forgot from 5 was when he's in the porta potty and she's shaking it. You're gonna get it, bitch.
Yeah.
Or the ooh baby. And then she stops, and then his kill's pretty good too. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, the spike.
The spike through it.
Through the porta potty into the kneecaps. Oh, that's gotta hurt.
But I digress. I just wanted to mention those couple things. Definitely check out the documentary Crystal Lake Memories. The book Crystal Lake Memories.
Yes.
Kane Hodder's book. Unmasked.
To
Hell and Back. The documentary. There's so much great stuff. Again, if you want just a little get your feet wet, there is his name was Jason, but that ended up turning into Crystal Lake Memories because it's also by the same people. But anyway, I will definitely be doing other podcasts about Friday the 13th because it's my absolute favorite franchise, including my favorite Jasons, as I mentioned here. But I was thinking about doing it for this one, but I think I'm going to hold off because I think it totally could be a new episode or another episode. So if there's nothing else you wanted to say, I'll call it a podcast.
There's nothing else. Let's call it a podcast. Have a great night.
All right. This has been the Horror of It All movie podcast. I'm Eric with my guest Jen. Until next time.